Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Now, you may remember that on the channel I've had a few people on claiming that their children have been taken by social services and placed into, well, wherever children go. I don't really know the ins and outs of all of this, but into some sort of custody or into some sort of home or something, whilst whatever the legal ramifications of it was that did that are presumably sorted out, or not, as the case may be. Now, somebody who got in touch with me and said, well, actually, I'm a social worker and it's not that easy to just come along and take children, because that seemed to be the message that was going, that people are very worried. And I've had a number of emails from people who are worried saying, I've had these claims that my kids are going to be taken away and it's got to this point, what can I do, Richard? And they look at me as if I'm some legal eagle, and I'm not. And none of this is legal advice, by the way. I just interview wonderful, lovely, lawful people who have their opinions, of course. But I thought it was worth getting the other side of the story. What's it like being a social worker? And if you had to remove children, what would be the process? So my guest today is Rich, who does this, and he has agreed to talk to me. Hello, Rich.
Hey, Richard, and also known as Crypto Rich, and I've been on your channel before,
You
and
have?
I am a qualified child protection social worker of many years standing, and thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel, Rich. As we've gone through various other things completely unrelated with money and stuff, but this now is very much about children, and we do seem to be in a very worrying climate in which social services, it would appear from the emails that I get, are pushing to remove children. And having spoken to you privately before this interview, you told me that actually it's very hard to remove children. So let's talk about the whole thing. How, first of all, would the social services get involved in, even not even at that stage about removing children, but just to be poking their nose in other people's affairs?
Well, we get referrals from either private individuals or agencies. Now, the referrals from private individuals can either be anonymous, so it could be a concerned neighbor, it could be an ex-partner or a family member, or they may identify themselves. And those can go through to local social services. You look up the council website or NSPCC or Childline. If it's NSPCC or Childline, they then contact the council, the social services responsible for that area. Now, some
Right.
of these referrals from private individuals, they can be malicious. They can be misinformed, like a misunderstanding. So,
Mm.
for example, home education, a neighbor can report, oh, these kids I see them all the time and I'm worried about them. There's nothing malicious there, but home education is not a reason to contact children's services. And I know because, as you know, my children never went to school. They were home educated, and I didn't, and it wasn't a secret either as a social worker. My manager, my colleagues knew. Um, then the other is we get referrals from agencies. So if, for example, there's a couple in a relationship and there's some sort of abusive incident, it's usually the guy, can be the woman, but it's usually the guy beating up on the woman. The police, somebody calls the police get involved, and there's a child present, the police inform social services. Or it might be the school have noticed something's happening with a kid that just seems a bit off or whatever, and then they inform social services. So that's how they come to our attention.
So what would be the first thing then that you do once you've had that referral from wherever, whatever source it has come from?
It depends upon who it's come from and the seriousness of that referral.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. Um, so this is many, many years ago. I get a phone call a Thursday afternoon from a head teacher, and the head teacher says to me, "We're really concerned about these two boys. There's 7 years old and there's 8 years old. They come to school one day in three. When they do come, they're hungry and they're smelly. We have for a year now tried to engage with the mother. We've sent letters, we've phoned, we've visited, we've had no response whatsoever." And I said, "Are the boys in today?" And then the head teacher said, "No." And I said, "Okay, I'll call you tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock." So I phoned 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. And I asked the head teacher, have the boys turned up? And the head teacher said no. And I said, okay, I'm going to go around. So I went round to this council estate, and it was a first floor or second floor flat, but it had an entry phone. So I could get up to the first floor or the second floor, but I couldn't get past the entry phone because he wasn't answering.
Mm.
I was ringing the doorbell, I was phoning, no answer, no answer, no answer. Now I'm sufficiently concerned about the welfare of the boys because they've not been seen. I consider the head teacher to be reliable. He's not going to be acting out of malice because his career is at stake, nor can it be sort of like frivolous. So then what I do is I call the police. So I have no powers of entry,
Mm.
none. Even
Mm.
when children are on a child protection plan, parents don't have to let me in. I have no right to see a child, but I can ask the police. And then the police
Right.
do their own judgment there and then. So I called the police. A couple of police officers turned up. They managed to borrow a ladder off some builders nearby. They got the ladder. They got past the entry phone to the front door, and they're knocking on the door, and the mother answers the door. And the police then open the entry door so I can get in. And the police say, look, we'd like to see the boys. We'd like to see the boys. And she says, you can see the boys, but I'm not letting you in, which is her right.
Mm.
The mother brings the boys to the door. The boys, they look a bit grubby. And I say, okay, okay. But as she opens the door, what we see inside is the flat is filthy. There's puddles of liquid, there's rubbish, the mum's barefoot. And the police and I are concerned about the state of the flat. So then the police say, okay, well, we're going to do a welfare check. You're going to have to let us in. And the mum says, I hope you're not going to take away my boys. And I said, they're not going to stay here. They're just not. And I went into the flat. They had a Staffordshire Terrier. And what I learned later on is that dog hadn't been out of the flat for a whole year.
Blimey.
And the kitchen was just filthy. There was just, the kind of stuff you and I would put in the bin and throw away.
Mm.
That was just all over the place, all over the place. There was one room which we couldn't get into. And I'm just really concerned. I've read the Daily Mail. So I say to the police, the mum says, look, the lock's broken, the lock's broken. I said, well, we got to see inside. And I asked the police to break the door. They broke the door. The room was okay. It was the kids' bedroom. The lock was broken. They hadn't been in it for months. So it was actually cleaner and tidier than the rest of the place. And the main bedroom where the mum slept with the kids smelled of wee. She was on Facebook. And I said to her, who do you have in your family? What family do you have nearby? And she said she's got a couple of sisters, or at least one sister, and her mother. And I say, okay, we have to contact them. The boys can't stay here. They've got to go and stay with them. Now, here, there's a couple of things at play. So one is there's an incredible piece of legislation, the 1989 Children's Act, which was created as cross-party. So it wasn't the Tories saying, oh, we're going to follow our principles. It wasn't Labour saying, oh, we're going to do our thing. No, the parties worked together to think what's the best thing for children. And there's some fundamental principles in that. One is the paramount and overriding consideration is the welfare of the child. Most important thing is the welfare of the child. And everything should be organized around that. Then another principle is children should always, always be with their families. Always, always be with their families wherever possible. Then we should move quickly and use the lowest level of intervention possible. So people may believe, oh, okay, that I've now seen these kids in this home that is unfit for children to be living in, that, okay, they're going to go straight into care and I'm going to get a big fat bonus. No, that's not what happened. So I said to the mother, I was with another junior social worker. She gave the details to that social worker. And I said, I'm going to take the boys to school. I walked the boys to school 5 minutes late, 5 minutes walk away. Said, here they are. They probably haven't eaten. Feed them, take care of them. I'm going to come and collect them later on this afternoon. And then I'll take them to the grandmothers. I go back. The police and the other social worker are out of the flat, past the entry door. They've locked everything up. And the grandmother and the aunt have arrived, the boy's aunt.
Mm.
And I say, well, what are you doing? What's happened? They said, well, we've got the boys. They're safe. The grandmother's going to pick them up after school. And I said, no, we can't do that. we've just taken this mum's kids. We've got to make sure she's okay. So then I asked the police to go get the lad to break in again. They break in again because she's not answering the door. And she's lying in the bed. She swallowed tablets. So now I have to call an ambulance to make sure she goes to hospital because she's obviously depressed for a whole year that she didn't clean her own flat. And the dog goes to Battersea Dogs Home. And then later on that day, I actually don't get the kids from school. I go and see the kids at their grandmother's. And they say they're happy to stay with their grandmother. And I talk to the grandmother, and then she's happy to have them for a while. We offer support to the grandmother to look after these kids. We offer support to the mother so she can deal with her mental health problems. We get in touch with the boy's father. He gets involved. There's another younger aunt involved and her partner. We get them involved. And between them all, they restore the flat so it's livable. They clean it up. And then at some point, the mum's now restored her mental health. The boys go back to live with her. Now, this was done without any recourse to any court action. And it was done in partnership with the family. Had I wanted to take court action, one of the things the court would have asked me is, well, where did you try and work with the family? So I have to work with the family, demonstrate that it's failed to be able to take it to the next level. But the mum just wasn't well, and the family were willing to work for the sake of the kids. They wanted their boys back, as they should. But you won't hear about that one.
So how typical is that?
It's pretty rare for me to go in and be in a situation where I have to remove children. And I did remove them. There's another situation I had where this mum, we get a referral from a GP. He says the mum is not well. Not well, not well, not well. And GP did a home visit because she was too unwell to come to the surgery. GP finds a 21-year-old in the home and a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. The two younger ones were barricaded in their bedroom. The flat was nice and clean and tidy. The 14 and the 15-year-old didn't know how to read and write. They didn't know how to cross the road. They didn't know where the library was. And the mum was claiming she was home educating them. So we put them in what's called a child protection plan, which is where it's a protocol for what local authorities and other agencies have to do, where we consider that children are at risk of significant harm. And it's not court action, it's pre-court action. And there are regular meetings involving the school and the colleges and the GP and the health visitor, depending upon the age of the children, and the police sometimes, to see how things are going, to try and improve conditions for the children.
Why were they barricaded in their room? Were they frightened of their parents or just frightened of the visit?
The mum had a mental health. She wasn't well. And
right.
She didn't let her children out. She had some sort of paranoid schizophrenia. She didn't let her children out. You can't, a 14, 15-year-old that being home educated and don't know where the local library is. They don't know how to...
Not everybody. I mean, a lot of people may not know where their local library is. I know that might sound strange, but that's not really an offence, is it?
No, it's not an offence. It's absolutely not an offence. So I didn't remove the children. I was wanting to work with the mum to look to improve conditions. It's certainly not home education. There's a test for court processes or for to assess the welfare of a child. Is the child receiving the sort of care that a reasonable person in Britain would expect a child of that age to receive? So for a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old living in London, being home educated, not knowing where the local library was, which wasn't very far, and not knowing how to cross the road. I mean, that's second one. A 14, 15-year-old should know how to cross the road.
Of course, yes. No, absolutely. I was just wondering where, if you're in the realms of home education, and I don't want to sort of veer away from social services, but as it's something that a lot of people are looking at doing or have just started to do because of the way that the curriculum is geared at the moment. And we've spoken about home education on this and taking children out of school and giving them a period in which you let them acclimatize to being at home rather than the institutionalization of being at school.
Mhm.
By whose authority can anybody override a mum, a mother, or a father who, whether they claim they're home educating, I mean, they may be home educating in a completely different way to what the rest of the country might expect.
Hmm.
But who can override a mother or father if they're allowing their children to educate themselves in a completely different way than what you and I might sort of say is reasonable?
Well, under English and Welsh law, only the court can for under home education for home
But who gives them that right?
Sorry?
But
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is why I don't understand. Who gives the court the right?
Well, there's a whole process going through school attendance orders and everything, and you've got to provide evidence, which is within. See, that's a completely separate domain with regards to the education that children receive. Is it consistent with their age, aptitude, and ability? Is the parents' duty to educate their children either by regular attendance at school or otherwise? It's got nothing to do with children's services or child protection. Nothing.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
No, just on that, the only agencies that have the right to remove children from their parents' care, either the court or the police. The police can only do it if they have evidence, the reasonable cause to believe that the child is at risk of imminent harm. And then
and
what
does
they
that come under criminal or civil?
it depends upon the nature of the harm. I think the Children's Act is civil, but if a parent is abusing a child, then the
Yes.
police can make a determination whether it meets criminal prosecution threshold. That's not for me to determine.
Hmm. Okay.
Probably in the instance that a first example I gave, although the police were involved, I don't think they pursued a criminal prosecution, even though the children were living in filthy conditions because the mother wasn't well. It doesn't serve the public interest. And then, she recovered, she's well, her children are back in her care, and she's caring for them well. Um, the thing with the Children's Act is a concept of significant harm. Significant harm. So that's harm that's likely to impair or impede or harm the child in a significant manner. So, for example, it's not against the law to smack your children. It's not against the law. It's not a child protection matter. And I know because I've dealt with parents who've done that. I've dealt with referrals regarding that. What's against the law is to leave marks.
We just
Or
have.
to use an implement. So I'll give you another example. Sorry, Richard, did I drop out?
Yeah, no, you froze, but I think you came back just in the nick of time and we heard it. So it's not against the law to smack, but it is to give to leave marks or use a physical implement.
Use an implement. That's against the law. So here's another example. Get a referral from a school. At the end of the day, they say, when 7-year-old boy, you need to come. You need to come because we're not sending this child home. This is what he said. That boy had told, this one's actually really upsetting for me. That boy had told his best friend that the night before, the dad had hit him, hit his back. The dad had used a plug attached to an electric flex, and he'd hit the boy with the plug. 7-year-old boy. So the boy had marks on his back. So, of course, the police are also involved in this one because that's a serious criminal offense.
Right.
And we called the mum and the dad, and we said to the mum, the boy's not coming home unless the dad goes and lives elsewhere. He can't stay in the home. And the mum had to give assurances that he wouldn't be in the home. So then the boy gets returned to the mum. The police pursue whatever prosecution they pursue against the dad. And then we work with the mum because it turned out the dad was also physically abusing the mother. And then we work with the mother to support her so that she doesn't get physically abused by this dad. Some local authorities, they have services to support dads so they can address their behavior. So even in that instance, we didn't take the child because, again, I need to provide evidence that I've done what I can to manage the first principle, sorry, the second principle, that children should, wherever possible, be stay with their families. But I didn't, but without that evidence that I tried
Mm.
that and it failed, I can't do anything.
So, I mean, you sound like you're a very good social services practitioner. Is that typical? Do you get a bonus if you take the kids out? Is there any incentive along the line, or are your colleagues and other members in the service not as due diligent as you are?
Well, the thing about the due diligence, right? A lot of the time it's a judgment call.
Right.
There's a, like I might say, this child needs a child protection plan. And my manager might say, no, we need to drop it down to the level below, child in need, which is more supportive. So then we work this out and we look, is the threshold met? Test for significant harm.
Hmm.
Now, at that level, there's no court involvement, there's no risk of court involvement. So it's just between me and my manager, and sometimes we might discuss it as a team. If there's going to be court involvement, then it goes to my manager's manager. Then there's the council solicitor has legal oversight and probably their manager. And if it's really, really serious, it'll go to the manager's manager. I've had cases where I'm dealing with, I'm saying, look, it's so serious. We've got to go to court, and it's very serious for all sorts of different reasons. It'll go right up to the director of children's services. And then once in the court arena, by the way, to answer your question, at no point is there any bonus. It's just hard bloody work, more bloody paperwork. And then
Right.
they go into the court. On the one hand, I really enjoy court work. I really enjoy it because these are children in the most distressing circumstances, and I get to make a difference. On the other hand, oh my God, the paperwork and the level of oversight and the eyes on me, watching me, every single thing I do, Richard, right? So
Hmm.
let's say it does go to court. I've satisfied my manager. We've tried the child protection plan. And actually, before the next stage of the child protection plan is meeting before action or letters before proceedings or pre-proceedings. Different local authorities call it different things. And this is where we say to the parents, look, we are really, really serious. We think your children are at really risk of significant harm. This is your last shot, or we will go to court. You got to deal with your drug taking. You got to go and attend this course on dealing with your violence. You got to clean up your house. You got to, whatever it is, you got to stop beating your kids, and learn other techniques. And I mean beating.
So, but if you knew they were beating your kids, let's just give you a scenario. You turn up. There's been a referral. You turn up at somebody's house, and let's say that the mother is. Let's say she's just on her own for the sake of argument. So there's no two parents to worry. It's just a mother on her own in a council property of some description. And let's say, for example, she maybe uses some drugs, but nothing really heavy, but just significant that she's on something, might be weed or some such thing. And let's say she does beat her children.
Yeah, the
Um,
weed's not,
and
in my experience, Richard, the weed's not an issue.
right, okay. So she's
We,
she beats her children, but what I mean, if you knew that she beats her children, wouldn't you want to be getting the kids out of there immediately? Because as soon as you shut the door, she might go, "Bloody hell, you kids, you're more trouble than you're worth."
it depends upon the severity of the beatings,
Right.
depends upon the age of the children. The younger the children are, it's a judgment call each time.
Mm.
If it's a 14, 15-year-old that she's beating, there's little that can be done, right? And again, it depends upon the seriousness, the significant harm. If she's got a 6-month-old baby and she's smoking weed in the flat, we try and encourage her not to. But then why on earth are you beating a 6-month-old baby? That
Mm.
is serious, right? So
Mm.
there's no, it's always a qualitative judgment. And then is the mother willing to work with us? Is
Right.
she serious about it? Is she faking it? She's just saying so to get us off our back, get us off her back, right? So there's
Mm.
all these sorts of judgments that are in place. And then what I would do, after visiting the mum, I go back and I discuss it with my manager. But also, I've been doing this a long time. It's, it's I can explain it. It's like someone who's really, really good, an ornithologist,
Mm.
can distinguish different types of birdsong. I can't. I go into a home and I just get a hunch.
Right.
Like the family with the 14-year-old and the 15-year-old, right? Everything looked okay. The mum was civil with me and curt, but there was just something off. It's just something off. I didn't know what it was. That family ended up on a child protection plan. I was visiting them regularly, just and I look for evidence. I look for evidence for the good, where they're providing good enough parenting, not excellent parenting or perfect parenting. It's good enough parenting, which is actually defined in case law and statute, right? Or evidence for the bad.
Hmm.
Well, actually, I'm looking for both, and then I got to weigh it up. I got to weigh it up. And eventually, what happened with that family, that 14, 15-year-old, the 15-year-old, we got him into college. He was lovely in college, really, really enjoyed it. One day, he phoned me up and he said, I want out. I want out. And now he's 15. He's old enough to work this out for himself. So,
Hmm.
so consulting with my manager, I had regular conversations with him. I met with him in the college. I found out about his older siblings. I found out about his dad and aunts and uncles. I got in touch with some of them where I could and looked to see if any of them could look after the 14-year-old and the 15-year-old. So again, approaching the family
Yeah.
because that's what's required by law. Now, with regards to your single mum, again, it depends upon the severity. Is she taking cocaine? Is she taking heroin? Is she taking something else? Right? Is there something else going on? Because people
Hmm.
aren't upfront. People think that that a social worker can just walk into a house and just remove children. Let me give you another example, if I may,
Hmm.
Richard. Right? And this took a hell of a lot of work, hell of a lot of work, and I'll illustrate what I had to do and who I had to contend with because parents get their day in court by law, which I think is fair and just, and there's an independent social worker overlooking everything to provide a perspective to the court. So I get a phone call from a safeguarding nurse in a hospital saying, "Look, we've got this mum. She's coming with an 8-month-old baby. She said the baby's had a heart attack, flashing blue light. We want you to come in. We're really, really concerned about this." And I said, "Well, look, can I come tomorrow?" And then, no, no, you have to come today. You have to come today. I think, okay, I should listen. I should listen, right? So I cancel a few meetings, check with my manager, and I go over to this hospital. And they say to me, and I meet with the safeguarding nurse and a pediatrician, a consultant, a couple of other nurses, and they're saying, we think this mum is fabricating and inducing illness in her 8-month-old daughter. And I say, how do you know? Well, the mum came in, flashing blue light, said her baby had had a heart attack, but there's no signs of a heart attack. So I said, well, how can you tell? And they said, well, there's no changes in the blood protein. The baby's fine. And the mum's all casual and chatting. Now, this is fabricated induced illness, also known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. This is the only instance where we don't tell the parents we're investigating them. In every other instance where we get a referral from school, from a neighbor, anonymously, from the police, we tell the parents we've had this referral and we want to check it out and investigate and do an assessment. In this instance, we don't because it's a very rare and very dangerous form of child abuse
Hmm.
because the mum can actually stop fabricating and inducing illness and then I have no evidence until we go away, or they can do something so harmful that it severely injures or kills the child.
Hmm.
And then say, we're right. Look, it's a genuine injury. She's also got a six-year-old sister, the little girl. So I'm talking to the school, I'm talking to the GP, I'm checking with the housing, and I'm talking to the mum to help her out with her housing. And in those conversations, I discover that she's got a brother that she has no contact with, and he has a couple of daughters that are the same age as the 6-year-old, about the similar age, right? Now, all the while, I'm working with the pediatricians, their specialist safeguarding pediatrician, and I'm looking for evidence of fabricated and induced illness, including getting the girl's GP records, which the GP gives me without letting the mum know because this is a child protection investigation under fabricated induced illness protocols. On the NHS website, there were at the time 14 conditions that would indicate fabricated induced illness is at play. I found evidence to suggest 11 of them. Now, it's got to be court standard evidence, not hearsay. or
Hmm.
opinion, but that I can actually present in court as established fact. I then spent 2 weeks writing a 70,000 statement, like a bloody dissertate, or 20,000. It was just took me 2 weeks to get it all together and then present to court. Now, the mum didn't know I was going to court. While I'm going through this process, I'm in regular communication with my manager, who's speaking to her manager, who's going to his manager, who's going to the director of children's services, because this is very, very serious. And we're going to go to court without the mum knowing we're going to court.
And can
With
you do that? I
Yeah,
mean, she can't have her day. She can't defend herself.
not initially. It's really draconian. It's North Korea's Stalinist Chinese, right? You don't get your day in court in the beginning, but it has to be done in order to protect the children. And there's incredibly high thresholds, which is why all the oversight. And then I have to run it all past legal, and they have to run it past their legal, their managers and stuff, right? To check, is this solid? So then I go to court. In court, there's the local authority, me, my manager, and me. There's the independent social worker and their barrister, CAFCAS. This is funded and set up by the Department of Justice. And their job is to give another perspective to make sure that everything's being done properly
Hmm.
for the best interest for the child. That's the most important thing, paramount and overriding concern, right? Now, welfare of the children is the most important thing. I cannot as yet work with the family because of the nature of this child abuse, because it's fabricated induced illness. So I can't explore that yet. Then the other is the lowest intervention possible. Can't do that with fabricated induced illness. Very, very nasty form of abuse. Children are killed. And then the other one is no delay. Well, I'm operating that. I'm moving quickly. Oh, by the way, this whole period, the hospital keep the mum and the 8-month-old in hospital for observation. So the baby's being watched 24 hours a day. The 6-year-old is with the grandmother. And I've been to the home and visited the home and got information there, and the 6-year-old's safe. But the mum comes back and lives with the grandmother. So the 8-month-old can't come back there. And the school are keeping an eye on the 6-month-old. One of the things the mum did with the 6-month-old, she takes the 6-year-old to school with a crutch, saying, look, my daughter's got an almost broken leg. Almost broken, the medical term is not broken. Your leg is either broken or not broken. Mum leaves, daughter throws a crutch away and is running around. But it's psychologically harmful, the idea that, there's something wrong with you and you need medical intervention. So I'm in court. I'm grilled by 3 magistrates. Courts do not like giving these orders without the parents there. Goes against the entire British legal and lawful tradition. The guardian, the independent social worker, looks through my stuff and can object or can agree. They get their own say. The magistrate agrees to the order because I've provided the evidence. I go to the hospital with another social worker. I inform the hospital beforehand, I've got a court order. Please have security ready. I'm going to take the baby. Now, in the background, I've also been working on looking for a suitable foster placement. Can't tell the family yet because they might tell the mum. So I found a suitable foster placement that will have both sisters. So I turn up at the hospital, me and another social worker. And security are standing a little bit of distance away. And I say to the mum, I've got an order to refuse to remove your children. And the mum howls. And I'm upset. I know what it's like. I got kids. I don't want anything like that to ever happen to me. But it needs to be done because abuse happens. She hands the baby over. The baby goes into foster care. Now we start working with the mother. You want your kids back, you're going to have to address this, whatever this issue is. The problem with fabricated induced illness is there's no reliable treatment for it. Just don't know. So then we say, okay, family. And then we start doing an assessment of her brother. He's willing to have the kids. So we're like, okay, and then we worked with the court. And at this point, I passed it on to another social worker because I was just dealing with the initial stuff there. right? But what would the best possible outcome, what that other social worker would have been working towards, is for those two girls to go and live with their brother, with their uncle, maternal uncle, until they're 18 and the uncle gets full parental rights, or until they start voting with their feet in mid-teenage. But the uncle still has full parental rights. So there's no instance, oh, we're going to put them in a children's home and I'm going to receive loads of money.
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't
So,
happen. But
okay,
can I
so
just say something about that, Richard?
yeah, of course.
Because what we get in the media is the parents' side,
Yes.
right? I am as a local authority or a social worker, I'm never ever going to go public about what's happened with a particular family because of confidentiality reasons. You know,
Right.
like with the royal family kids when they're babies, the press aren't allowed to print pictures of them because they're children, they're infants. For that same reason. So then you'll never hear the local authorities saying, look, this is the reason because the mum was fabricating and inducing illness, or because she hadn't cleaned the flat for a whole year and never took her dog out for a walk or a poo. We're not going to say that. So then all you get is the parent side. Now, the thing about parenting and what the parents say, you and I, we have parented our children in a particular way. We love our children. I believe all parents love their children unless they have some severe mental disorder. And then they're just separated from their love. We parent our children according to attitudes, beliefs, standards, values that we have, that perhaps the way that we've been parented ourselves. You know, I'm a very liberal Muslim, but I didn't let my kids have pork. We don't have it in the house. I didn't send my kids to school. And I can rationalize that and justify it. Now, you probably did let your kids have pork unless you were a vegetarian parent and then you didn't let them have meat. But you rationalize it. It makes sense. It's logical to you. And then, now those instances aren't harmful. But if a parent has a set of rationalizations or justifications and that, you know, like that allow them to carry on drinking, for example, because it doesn't really do much harm. Like, look, they're used to living in dirt because it's how they were brought up. And then along comes some middle class twit of a social worker like me who says, no, 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 you got it all wrong. You can't be doing that. Well, of course, the parents are going to justify and rationalize it. And they do. Because if they didn't justify and rationalize it, they wouldn't have done that in the first place. That guy who beat his 7-year-old son with the plug attached to a flex, well, unless he was certifiably insane, whatever that may be, he justified that form of discipline to himself.
So
But
are you saying that it is possible, even though we only hear the parent stories, that effectively they must be lying if their children are taken away from them and they claim that the circumstances were very tenuous?
I think in some instances they may be lying because child abuse does go on, and somebody who abuses children is never going to own up to it. And when I
Right.
say that, when I go and visit homes, right, say, listen, if you're not abusing your children, you're going to say you're not abusing them.
Mm.
If you are abusing your children, you're going to say you're not abusing them. I got to work it out,
Yeah,
right?
no, no, I totally agree. I'm just trying to get to the. I mean, we've had some people on the show, and I don't know because I've never met them before, and
Yeah.
I have to take them at face value, as most people would watching it or watching anybody saying, "Oh, the social services have taken my kids. It's terrible, and I'm upset." And of course, and one has to have faith in the social service system, I suppose, that if they are going to remove kids, it is just as you said, and all the various different protocols and all the tiers of checking has gone on. However, of course, mainstream media is not a terribly good media to believe, and of course YouTube and all the others is not very good, because how do you trust anything anymore that is true and upstanding and correct? And I can't vouch for the people who've been on my show who claim that it was very minor offences or situations that had both their children taken away. Now, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. And of course, I'm just the presenter. So it's saying, well, here's the story. I don't know if it's true. And here's the parent saying it. But one has to have that faith that the law as it is in place is there for the benefit of the people and not for the system.
Yeah.
And we have seen with policing, and we have seen with the legal system in general, that it doesn't seem to be, and I've had it face value myself, for the benefit of the people. And so why should we trust social services any more than we now look at the corruption in the police and the corruption in all these other services? The council particularly don't seem to have a care for the local people.
Yes, I think those are entirely valid points. And on so many things, Richard, you and I are one, right? Absolutely. We are one on so many things. And where we're not is just a little variation, right? But we're on both sides of the
Don't get me
fence.
started on Bitcoin. Don't get me started on Bitcoin. But
Well,
that's another
you
issue.
should be able to take donations in Bitcoin, and we can talk about that. But anyway, moving on to this, right? Um, the 1989 Children's Act is an incredibly fabulous piece of legislation. I mean, I haven't read it word for word. I've read lots of sections of it and I've seen it in practice. And I've always thought, oh my God, this is such a great piece of legislation. Like I said at the beginning, it wasn't the Tories pushing their agenda. It
No.
wasn't Labour pushing their agenda. And the Liberals, Lib Dems at the time, whichever it was, their version in 1989, it was cross-party. They worked together.
Mm.
What's the best thing for the children? Was the best thing for the children is that children mustn't be harmed. Got to keep them safe and secure. Child abuse goes on, right? But it's got to be significant harm.
And what
Can't
do you
just
call what is significant harm?
the judgment call. There is I can't remember it word for word, right? But there's a different test for it. So one, like, is the child receiving the sort of care that a reasonable person in Britain would expect a child of that age to receive? And is it leading to significant impairment or ill treatment? Those are the words: ill treatment and impairment.
So that's quite subjective, isn't it?
It is subjective, but then that's worked out through the process, right? Through the different steps and everything. I asked a human rights lawyer who's been involved in the campaign to free Julian Assange, and I used to do loads of videos with him. And I asked him, I said, look, I just think the 1989 Children's Act is a really great piece of legislation because cross-party support, the welfare of the child is a paramount and overriding concern. Children should always be with their families, lowest level of intervention wherever possible, and do it quickly. Don't delay. And you've got to balance all those four things. But the primary paramountcy principle is the welfare of the child. That's the most important thing, right?
And he said,
Not only is it considered the best piece of child welfare legislation in the world, it's been copied all over the world, it's actually considered as the best piece of legislation in any field.
right, okay.
Right
Well,
now,
I just want to add one point in there. You've made a big emphasis on its cross-party and all of that. That the way I look at government is that it doesn't matter if it's cross-party or everybody in government and all it's all government making that decision. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be parents in general helping to have made that decision. They've been excluded, real men and women, not parents.
There would have been a consultation process, however it was, and it had gone through all the different committees in Parliament and everything like that, right? But parents do get involved in the whole thing all the way along. So let me take you through quickly. So we get a referral. Let's say it's not very serious. So there's a low-level protocol called Child in Need, which is really the family just needs some support. It's not punitive in any way. There's no threat to it. So, for example, if parents have got a child with Down syndrome, local authorities will provide support through the Child in Need protocols. Or if they're facing particular hardship, and it's not really, there's no significant harm, they're willing to work with the family, then Child in Need protocol will do that. And it is like partnership. That's my experience. That's experience of it. And parents can at any point say, look, we don't want your involvement, and that's it, job done. Even if I disagree. If I say, look, I want to offer you Child in Need support, Rich, and you say, well, actually, we've had it for 3 months now, I don't want it anymore. Okay, I don't have a say. Then the next level is child protection, where there's evidence to suggest significant harm. Now, Then there's consultation with statutory agencies, health, police, schools, if home ed, then the education welfare service or whatever, right? And then we
And
meet and convene. There's a big meeting with an independent reviewing officer who looks at all the evidence. The parents come along to that meeting and they get to have their say. And
how do
then,
you define? Sorry,
well,
I mean that's great because it sounds like you've got this bureaucracy going. The key thing there, it seems to me, is the evidence. How is that evidence sought, and what kind of evidence can it be? Because you know, you may say, "Oh yeah, well they're beating the child, and I've seen the thing." Well, that's just hearsay. It may not be that, and the parents are going, "Hang on a minute, I'm feeling railroaded here. You've created a story." Now, I'm not. What I'm. Let me just put my cards on the table. I'm not trying to say that this is a bad thing that you're doing and everything else, because what you said is there. But I'm just stepping into the side of the other side of the parents saying, is there any protection for them if a rogue somebody says, oh, well, there's this evidence that your child's being beaten up or is being treated badly or anything? Because a lot of parents, a lot of mums and dads, I mustn't use the word parents because my audience understand these terms, a lot of mums and dads will be concerned if they are suddenly approached by the social services and think, hang on, what are you talking about? We're having a night. Now, I understand they may have rationalised their thing and going, it's perfectly fine to belt, you know, take my belt off and whack the child. I get that. But I'm talking about those mums and dads who perhaps are worried because they might want to live slightly differently from what you call or what is deemed reasonable, normal behaviour. So they may say, do you know what? I'm not teaching my children to read and write. I don't believe in it. Don't believe in it.
yeah,
I'm
that's
going
got
to
nothing
teach
to do
them.
with child protection.
Okay.
That's got nothing to do with child protection, right? So one home educating advocate to another home educating advocate. Let's stick to child protection, right, and not go there. Yeah. Now,
Well, I'm just saying that it's, how do you get the evidence? What is that? What's the word I'm looking for?
how do I collect the evidence?
What donates the evidence?
Okay, so in let me see. You see, the really serious cases are the ones that stick in the memory. The more
Yes.
common low level ones I don't remember so well, right?
Right,
So
but it's the more that. But if they're common, they're the ones that people are going to be
yeah,
worried about
let's
because
so one of the
obviously, if
biggest
people are
reasons.
beating up their children, you can imagine that the evidence is a little bit more often obvious. And as you said with the example, you said, you know, you go in and you could smell the wee, you could smell all that. You clearly there's a worry.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking of the more humdrum situation where people might be slightly worried that evidence might, you know, what do you call evidence that one person, you know, says, well, that's normal, that's fine.
sure, sure. Now, the biggest reason where children are on a child protection plan is domestic abuse.
Right.
The parents are taking care of the children in normal respects in every regard, except dad, usually dad, beats up on mum. Sometimes he does it when the kids are sleeping. Mum says, or dad says, or both say, right? That's still child abuse. The
Right.
the kids' brains pick it up while they're sleeping. They get terrified. It distorts their emotional development. It's as harmful. Dad
But
beating up mum
yes, and
is
the
as
evidence would
harmful.
be, I mean, how would you present the evidence?
So,
Is it
so the
marks on the
evidence.
body, visits to the hospital?
Well, sometimes we get calls. We get calls from Women's Aid. We get calls from the police where domestic abuse has happened. The mum may disclose something to the GP. The GP may suspect it.
Right.
Um, Often the police come to us or the schools come to us, right? You know, little Johnny has said that, oh, daddy beat mummy last night again,
Right.
right? So now the boy has made a disclosure to a teacher. The teacher then tells the safeguarding teacher. The safeguarding teacher then contacts the social services. We then have a conversation with this safeguarding teacher, get more information. We'll go and get information on the parents. We then ask the police to do police checks. And often what happens is a guy who beats up on women moves from one relationship to another, beating them up.
Hmm.
And the other side is where a woman is in an abusive relationship. She tragically moves from one abusive relationship to another, to another, to another. And the police will often have records of that, right? So then we check that. So we see what the police say. We check what the GP says. How often do the children, has the GP seen either parents? Does the GP have any concerns? If the children are young, what's the health visitor saying? So it's like, I've never actually seen child abuse happen.
No.
What I
Oh.
look for are all the signs from
Yes.
different angles. And then I will, depending upon the children's age and with the consent of the parents, do direct work with children. So I remember one. I remember one. This 8-year-old boy. Mum said, yes, you can see my 8-year-old boy in school. So I go to the school, I check it out with the school. They say, school say fine, right? The boy's happy to see me because for him, he's just going to do some drawing.
Hmm.
So now the deal with this boy, he's 8 years old. Mum kept him in nappies till he was 6. And then he's showing up with all sorts of unusual behavior at school, not typical behavior. And I can't remember the details, right?
Hmm.
So then one of the tools we use are happy face. I draw a happy face. What are the things that make you happy? Draw an angry face. What are the things that make you angry? What are the things that make you sad? What are the things that make you afraid? Now, children that age, they express themselves through drawing. This kid,
Right.
he drew the picture of two figures fighting. And I said, what's that? He goes, that's when uncle kicked mummy.
Right.
Oh,
So you can see,
I,
yeah. So you can start to see the elements of child abuse going on in there.
yeah. Now, when I ask uncle and I ask mummy, they're both going to deny it.
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
yeah. Or the
Yeah.
mummy might confess. She might fess up, and it's just more evidence. Now,
Right.
is it sufficient evidence for me to go to court? No, not that on its own. Do I
But it's
want
a
to go to
suspicion.
court? Do I want to go to court? No. An 8-year-old saying
Hmm.
that's uncle kicking mummy, oh, that's concerning. Where on earth did an 8-year-old get that idea from?
Right.
Right? Now, that may be,
Turns out they're both in the local theatre group, and they were just acting a scene. And it was, if that was the case,
it
you'd
wasn't
just
the
be
case.
no, no, I know. I'm
Yeah,
not saying it was, but if it turned out to be that, then you'd go, oh, right, okay, the kids misunderstood, obviously. But I'm just throwing that out there because you never know.
very
But
rare,
clearly, that's
clearly. Because there's
an
lots of other
extreme.
things. Because if it was only that and no other markers,
Right.
fine. I don't have anything to go on. They just drew a drawing. And I've had
Yeah.
instances like that, you know,
Right.
but all other evidence, the parents are doing everything right. No signs of domestic abuse, no signs of physical abuse, no signs of emotional abuse or neglect, right? School are really, really happy. Kid just draws really disturbing images of
Yeah.
people getting stabbed and everything. And this is pre-internet days. So
Oh,
me,
right. Okay. So I
so
mean,
me and the
do you get
parents
just to?
were sitting around wondering what is going on.
Yeah. Okay. Couple more questions
Mhm.
then for you, just to sort of move it for different spheres. What if you're a single parent or a couple, and you are on you're in a council house, and you're being you're being on the system, as it were, help because you can't work. Let's say you're a single parent then, and you can't work because you've got young children. And so you're getting allowances from the government. Are you more likely to be picked up, or can your what do they call them? These things they give you the money, when you get money regularly from the government, these handouts.
Benefits.
Can they be stopped if your behaviour doesn't change? Are they used as weapons to say, well, if you don't do this, we'll first of all stop paying your rent?
No, because that would harm the child. We
Right.
never remove children for poverty reasons. If anything, and I'm working with families currently. I don't want to go into any of those details, right? It's where, we nowadays, tragically, we provide more and more food bank vouchers. It's we
Right.
never
So,
had to
so
do.
benefits was the word
Yeah,
I was looking
benefits,
for.
or
Yeah.
or I've worked with families, where the food bank doesn't have nappies.
Right.
So then we'll provide the nappies, or we'll provide the cash or a supermarket voucher so the parent can get the nappy. If the family are made homeless, intentionally homeless, social services have a duty to make sure that children aren't sleeping on the streets. So
Right.
then what happens? We don't take them into care. We house them with their primary carer, with their mum and their dad, or their mum
Right.
if it's a single parent, or their dad if it's a single parent. It's not great accommodation, but it comes
No.
out social services budget.
So, talking of budget, the social services budget, is the financial situation ever a part of the decision making to help what tier of help that you will offer a family?
No.
I mean,
It
are you
makes no difference to whether a child is in a child in need or child protection. And just
Hmm.
on that, child protection can be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 50 months, usually no more than 24 months as a maximum, right? As an opportunity to work closely with local authorities and other professions to drop it down to child in need and then nothing. That's the whole intention.
Yeah.
Children aren't being subjected to significant harm and they stay with their families, and then pre-court and then court, right? And by the way, sometimes the court action is the child stays with the family and the court issues an order about what the family needs to do for the child. Doesn't necessarily mean removal. That's only ever as a last resort.
Right.
Now,
And you'd
but
have regular contact, presumably the social. Once whatever has been agreed, you'd have regular contact just to check everything is on course.
yeah,
Yeah.
and by the way, once the reference to the court case earlier, right? Once I had to remove those two little girls,
Mm.
3 days later, 72 hours later, there was another hearing, and the mum was told about it, and the mum was given legal aid so she could have a family solicitor represent her. And then
Right.
she was allowed, had access to all the court documents. She was at every single hearing. She had legal aid all the way through, as she should, as she
Mm.
should. And then
Okay.
in the end, the judge decides at the end, do the children return to the mum? Do they go and live with the uncle? Or do they go into care? So I missed out that part. Where the financial considerations come into play is what sort of services are available.
Mm.
Some local authorities will have programs to help abusive dads deal with if they're perpetrators of domestic abuse. Some local authorities will have more funding for unqualified social workers, family support workers to come into the house and do direct work with the parents.
Right.
Sometimes what happens, some local authorities, they hit budgetary constraints, they get rid of the contracted social workers, and then the caseload for the council employee social workers goes through the roof. You get
Yes.
this incredible backlog, a crisis happens, and then they go into, I don't know, whatever the procedure is, and then the Department of Children or whatever it is comes in, takes control of everything, and starts forking out for contracted social workers.
Yes.
So it's never a consideration, oh, we shouldn't go to court because it's too expensive for this child. We shouldn't take this
Right.
child into care because it's too expensive. No, we should take this child into care because we've tried to work with the family and it hasn't worked. The child's still at risk of significant harm. We've explored all familial options, including one option when I was working in London, where the court was considering placing a 2-year-old boy with his maternal aunt in Nigeria.
Wow.
I would have liked, we'll do that
Right.
because the
Okay.
aunt
So
is going to love him more than any
yes.
non-familial carer, right? So we explore all the family, and then having explored the family, then we look at, well, foster care or adoption, depending upon the age of the child.
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, then children's homes. So it goes through
Okay.
both processes.
We're coming to the end of our hour, believe it or not. It's absolutely amazing. And I'm sure people have millions of questions and different circumstances and what have you. So just to end on, so, I mean, clearly, I think I know what you're going to say, but do you think the social service system at this time in the current climate that we have is working sufficiently for children across the board?
Well, thankfully, it hasn't as yet. The Children's Act hasn't been impacted by some of the more WF flavored legislation. Not yet, right? And that's what I'm wary of.
WEF.
Yeah, WEF. Yeah, their particular flavor hasn't gone into the Children's Act as yet, right? And long may that continue. I'm really worried about what this government might do. I think they'll have plans to destroy home education, to continue the destruction of the family, which is antithetical to the spirit of the Children's Act. Children should, wherever possible, be with their families. And what I would say, if anybody's got, if you've got children's services involved with you, one is get familiar with the Children's Act. So you want to know what your rights are. Two, understand that the welfare of the child is the most important thing. And then the other principle is children should, wherever possible, stay with their families. I want that. If I remove a child, it is upsetting for me. Because, God forbid anything happens to my brother's children. They're adults now, right? I'd be like, get out of the way. I'll take care of them. They're mine, right? So we always look for that within families, right? And social workers look for evidence for the good and evidence for the bad. help them find it, and then they can
Brilliant.
appropriate call.
Rich, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us your side of the story, which it balances up some of the cases that we've had on this show. And I can't really make any comment about the parents that we've had on, or the mums and dads
Yeah.
that we've had on the
They,
show,
they're
because
doing what they should. Richard, I just want to say they're doing what they should be doing, advocating
Yeah.
for their children. Good luck to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got questions, do put them in the, or comments even, which is easier because I can't answer the questions, not all of them, because there's so many of them, as we do. And do check out former videos that I've done with Rich on crypto and things like that, where we've argued the case for various digital types of money, or not, as the case may be. But I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But in the meantime, from Rich and myself, thank you so much, Rich, for giving that perspective, which is, I think, a different one than a lot of people perhaps were expecting.
Yes.
And that's a good thing. And so there we go. Anyway, until next time, from Rich and I, thanks for watching. Goodbye.